I came in 1961 for 4 years. Then in 1967 I came again for 6, and then was gone in the States, but always in touch. And my wife was a member of the American board during that time. So then in 1988 we were asked if we would return to Turkey, which we did. Then we came to Tarsus, and then from 1990 until I retired in 2012, then I worked with the American board in the office in Istanbul and did various jobs here and there, including when ACI needed a temporary müdür, I was here. Talas was a school for middle-high boys, only boys, almost all of them boarders, and it was really in many, many ways like being at Boy Scout camp. And I had been a Boy Scout leader, so evenings in the dormitory, weekends camping trips, basic kind of meals, etc. A whole lot of time together with a whole bunch of young people who were enthusiastic and naughty and very bright. Sort of made it all fun for me. I was 22 years old when I came, so I was barely older than my students, and we had a lot of time together that was mutually beneficial. I think that's what I'd say. I really don't remember. I knew nothing about Turkey when I signed the contract. I had to look it up on the map. The only thing that I had some cognizance of was that there were parts of the biblical story that were that took place in Turkey, and that was really all that I knew. So I had no expectations particularly, and they were all met. Coming to Turkey was my first venture out of the United States, and practically the first venture out of Wisconsin. But continuously after that, I've been on the road, as it were. My second summer, I had the so-called Grand Tour in Europe, and two months trotting around there. And then in 1967, after I was married, my wife Sally and I came back to Turkey, this time to Tarsus, and we continued to travel around Turkey and around in Europe and the Middle East. And I've continued to do that and extend my horizons even further now that with my second wife, who is a professional tour guide and an ACI graduate, class of 1956, we have been to Bali and to Africa and to lots of other places. So traveling is very much I have itchy feet. I have memories that of places that I've been that I like imagine going back to. I think maybe the most magic of those places for me is the Yayla that belongs to the Tarsus school in what's called Çamlı Yayla, or Namrun, up in the Taurus Mountains just north of Tarsus. But there are so many possibilities here. Mavi Yolculuk is a fabulous thing to do, a blue voyage. And I live in Zeytinalanı, in a lovely olive grove just west of Izmir, and it is a place of refuge and refreshment and sweetness all the time. There are moments, of course, particular high points, and things that, for example, I get together with a former student of mine who is presently a very famous surgeon, university rector. You would know his name. And he tells me that I made a difference in his life. So that's pretty big, because he makes a difference in so many people's lives. I was in on the ground floor in the excuse me, in the 1990s of the transfer of the American board to Salakaitim Vakfa. I was very much involved in that process, and I honor the service to Zev and Turkey of my particular colleagues at that time. We had a marvelous time. It was a fabulous sort of experience, taking the resources that had grown out of the American board experience, but were now turned over to our partners in Salakaitim. Lots of different ways. Facebook, lots and lots of Facebook contacts, including very interesting conversations with former teachers, especially in Tarsus, who continuously interface with other teachers and with former students and ask questions about where is this person now, and do you remember that, and these kinds of things. So that's going on all the time, and it's quite a lot of fun. And I have had pictures of me posted on Facebook from the time when I weighed 50 pounds less, and it's very humbling kind of thing. So that's one thing. The graduates of Talas have a kind of an organization where once a month, some other place around the country, they have dinner together. Talas closed in 1967, so all of the graduates of that school are in their 50s, etc., or older. But I go to as many of those as I can. We were in Bodrum a couple of weeks ago, and there were 50-some Talas graduates and their spouses and so forth, and that was a lot of fun. Way back when I'm about 23, 24 years old in Kayseri, there was a clinic along with the school there, an outpatient clinic, and the doctor there, Dr. Warren Winkler, who still lives in Istanbul, by the way, was called to go and attend the birth of a village woman whose father was the head man. February, probably. Deep snow. So we got into the Land Rover and went as far as we could go, and then were met by some people from the village with two horses. One was for the and the other one was for the doctor. And what was I going to do? There was a little hovel beside the road, a simple one-room shack, and in it an old lady, widow, with literally nothing. And it was a tiny little room, and they asked her, and she said, yes, I could stay there. And so I did, and it was shelter from the storm. There was snow up this high, so it was cold. It was Kayseri winter, and I knew, although I didn't have much Turkish, but I'd been there long enough to know that she was very uncomfortable. And what could I do? I didn't want to make her uncomfortable, but as we sat together and shared the warmth of her little fire and the protection of her little house, suddenly she got up and went into a place under the sedir where I was sitting, got out a basket. In it was a box all wrapped up. She opened up the box, and in it were 3 pieces of Bayram candy, and she could offer it to me. And what was bothering her was that she was not able to meet the requirements of Turkish hospitality. Wasn't that I made her uncomfortable, was that she had a duty as a hostess, if you will. Now, that has been replicated for me a million times. Turkey is the most hospitable country in the world to strangers, not to its own, but to strangers. It's absolutely fabulous. I think that is probably a top story, and I don't need to tell you on this